Hello everyone, my name is William Lane Craig and today we have George Lemaitre. He has applied to a university and he will I will be taking his interview. So something about George Lemaitre, he is a philosopher, astronomer, mathematician. So what you will be seeing today is me taking his interview and discussing his theory of Big Bang. So let's see how it goes. Hello, Mr. George. How are you doing?
Hello, Professor Greg. Fine evening. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Are you nervous about the interview?
No, not at all. I'm more excited than I'm nervous.
Then let's start the interview. So
Absolutely.
my first so my first question to you is, can you elaborate on your academic experience in your field of work?
Sure. So I studied at the Catholic University of Louvain to pursue a degree in engineering during my undergrad. However, 3 years later, while I was senior at my undergrad university, my studies were brought to a halt because a war broke out in Europe and I had to be recruited to the Belgian army where I served as an artillery officer. Fortunately, once the war ended, I continued with my studies, but I shifted from a degree in engineering to a degree in mathematics because that's where my interest mostly lied. And when I was 26, I finally received my doctorate in sciences in mathematics.
Okay, so your journey has been uh, quite a fantastic one. So you have served in the army as well as you have shifted your degree from engineering to mathematics.
Hmm.
So my question is, how have these transitions helped you to achieve uh, your goals in life?
So, my wartime experiences in particular might seem to be quite horrific or traumatizing for any individual, but they played a very crucial and pivotal role in my life. It was because of the war that my devotion and my belief in God strengthened, and that sort of prompted me to admit myself in the Mason Saint Rombaut, where I was ordained as a priest later on and was given the title of Abbé. And it was during this time I continued with my scientific research as well, and I was closely examining Einstein's theory on general relativity. I even wrote a manuscript on his theory as well, where I gave my take on it, and that gained quite some recognition and provided me with a grant that allowed me to continue with my postgraduate studies at the University of Cambridge. There, I got the opportunity to study under Sir Arthur Eddington, and under him, I developed a fond interest for mathematical astronomy. So it's been a marvelous journey so far.
So So I remember you mentioned that you worked on Einstein's theory of relativity.
Hmm.
So I remember that there was an instance when you and Einstein came into a conflict with each other. So can you explain what was the matter of that conflict?
I understand what you're getting at, Professor Craig. I actually did have an encounter with Einstein at a conference hosted by Sir Arthur Eddington. So basically, Einstein's theory proposed that the universe is spatially and temporally infinite, and that space is neither expanding nor contracting. Um, this provides us with his knowledge about these that the universe is static. I identified a problem with his theory. I basically derived this from the data and knowledge that had been gathered by a Russian physicist, Alexander Friedman, who also examined Einstein's theory on the static universe. However, Friedman he was principally interested in the mathematics of Einstein's theory. He didn't really pursue the possibility of explaining or describing the physical universe. Um, but I carried on with my work, and while I was in the United States studying at MIT, I was acquainted with Edwin Hubble's work on the expanding universe and how galaxies were moving away at high speeds. This led me to critically analyzed the problem in Einstein's theory, and I completely changed my perspective in my research and looked at his work from a physical point of view. Um, I even presented this in my paper as well, that I wrote in Brussels. I gave it to Sir Arthur Eddington, who read it, and he held a conference where he invited me and some other scientists as well, where Einstein was also present. I presented my work to to Einstein, and I remember his exact words were, "Although your calculations are correct, your physics is abominable." Um, the other scientists laughed, but that really didn't stop me there. I carried on with my research, and when my work had reached Edwin Hubel in the United States, he observed from his observatory that galaxies were in fact moving away at high speeds, and this led me to build up on my theory and led me to conclude that the universe may have originated from a finite point in time. I believe that the universe is in fact expanding, and in the past, it was quite small. It was as small as a tiny particle, which I call the primeval atom. And it was this primeval atom that disintegrated in an explosion, hence giving rise to space, time, and thus the expansion of the universe. And this led me to conclude on my theory, that is the Big Bang theory, which is a contradiction to Einstein's work on the static universe.
Okay, so what I've been able to gather from your account is that your theory of Big Bang is an extension of Hubel's and Friedman's work, right?
Hmm.
So, my question to you is, why do you think that your theory of Big Bang is integral or important to our understanding of science at this point in time?
See, my theory of the Big Bang, it completely provides us or advances our understanding of the world. And that is what science is all about. Science is about finding new knowledge, theories, and developing new facts every single day. And this is what only drives and develops our understanding and interpretation of this universe. And that is what my theory has to offer. I believe that it is important for every living person to sort of understand how the universe works and what is in fact reality. And this is what advances our understanding, and it provides us with a completely different perspective or a different stance of interpreting everything. So that is why I believe that my scientific study is a breakthrough and is integral for every single in the scientific world itself.
Interesting, interesting. So, George, as you may know, that my own work focuses on the creation of the universe.
Hmm.
So my work is basically a religious perspective of this of the creation of this universe. So what I found in my research is that even if the universe came about the disintegration of particle, there must be a superior being responsible for the explosion itself, which to my understanding is God. So what's your take on my theory?
See, Professor Craig, your explanation is completely right. But the way you look at things, like you mentioned earlier, is that it is from a religious perspective. Although my religious interests are as important to me as science, the Big Bang Theory itself is a scientific study and not a religious study. So what I like to so this is something that I would like to advocate for, is that science and religion have no connection and nor a conflict. They need to be kept entirely separate and are treated as different perspectives completely and different studies. They are basically parallel interpretations of the world and must not come into conflict or contradiction with each other. So, as far as I'm concerned, my religious conviction and my devotion towards God is important to me, but so is my scientific research and my scientific work. But it is important that we keep them separated from each other and not mix the two together.
Precisely. So you have opened me to a different perspective on the origin of this universe, which is fantastic, and which is what makes science so creative and so beautiful. And that's actually what meaning of science is.
Absolutely,
So
Professor Craig. And as far as I can see, my theory is entirely outside any metaphysical or religious question. It leaves the materialist free to deny any transcendental being. And for the believer, it sort of removes any attempt at familiarity with God. So I respect your theory, your beliefs, sir, I do. But this is what I advocate for, and that science and religion must be kept separate.
amazing. So we have different perspectives, and that's what we want in a university for students to be exposed to different perspectives and then make a decision as to what perspective they agree the most. So it was nice having you, Mr. George. We will get back to you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Start.
Hello, Professor Albert. Thanks for coming on call on such a short notice. How are you?
I'm doing well, Professor Craig. I have heard many good things about you and your university. Um, no worries at all. How may I help you?
So a couple of days back, George Lemaitre came to our university for a job interview. And since he has been a critique on the theory of relativity, I would just like to know some reviews about him. So could you define for me his intellect level and what do you think about him?
George, yes, I am. I am particularly aware of George's work. Um, his critique on my theory on the static universe did raise a lot of concern and uh, a lot of argument as well amongst us scientists. But George, in particular, the way his theory focuses on the expanding universe and how the universe came about, and it's shed light to a completely different dimension in the scientific world. And a lot of his disciples can learn from him. A lot of us scientists can learn from him as well. And furthermore, I've spoken to Eddington numerous times about George. Eddington was very much inspired by George even when he was a student. And I didn't believe him at first, but uh, reviewing his work, his research has really captivated me as well. And yes, you say that he came for your interview. I say that you need to hire him immediately because I believe he will serve as a valuable asset to your university and will continue to inspire a further generation of scientists. So I only have good things
Mm,
to say about him, Professor Craig.
okay, so since you and Eddington regard him so greatly, then he must be a man of great intellect, and he should prove to be good asset to my university.
Yes,
So thank you, Mr. Albert. It was nice talking to you after such a long time. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
goodbye.
Hello, Mr. George. Nice to see you again.
Hello, Professor Craig. It's nice to see you again. Thank you for having me again.
So I contacted your colleagues, and they have spoken really high of you, which is something quite great. So I have just one question for you. Would you like to work with us?
Absolutely. It would be an honor to undertake a professorship at your university, sir.
Okay, congratulations then. Welcome to this university.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, see you soon. Goodbye.